This is the image that we would like to project before the world and assure the world that it is upon these great ideals and upon these great principles that our society is built. These are our professions of faith. But do we believe according to our profession? This is the great test, ladies and gentlemen. And if we fail to meet that test, we don't deserve to survive and probably won't. Because the great struggle in the world today is a struggle between two great forces. On the one hand, we have 1/3 of the Earth's population and 1/3 of the Earth's surface that has been conquered by a denial of these great truths. And we are in opposition to that force. For we would like to think that we constitute the force that is willing to pay whatever price, to make whatever sacrifice is necessary, that a society be built in which these great truths of the Declaration of Independence will in reality be lived out. Therefore, basic to this great struggle is the human person. And what do we say of the human person? According to our Judeo-Christian tradition, we say that the human person is a created image of Almighty God, and that as such, the human person has dignity, has supreme value, has sanctity, sacredness, inviolability attaching to his human personality. And we say that as a result of these great prerogatives, that the human person has certain basic rights. We call them inalienable rights. And these inalienable rights are made up of the sum total of all those claims, of all those demands, which every man, because he is a man, can make of his fellow man and of society for the spiritual and material goods necessary to live in the fullness of his human dignity. This is a very brief and certainly a very inadequate analysis of what we stand for. And when we talk about the human person, we talk about the only being that makes any sense, the only important being, because in the light of our American creed, the human person is the masterpiece of God's handiwork, the unique product of divine omnipotence, the prince of creation. That's what we say, ladies and gentlemen. And when we say it, We're talking about the human person in every man and woman. Be that human person high or low, rich or poor, saint or sinner, Negro or white. And if we are unwilling to adjust our thought and our action to the demands of our American creed, then I ask you, do we deserve to survive? These are important questions, ladies and gentlemen. And they go far beyond local, regional, or even national differences. These are the substance, these truths, these great ideals are the substance of the only answer that we have to communism. And the answer to communism doesn't lie in the slanders of the John Birch Society. It doesn't lie in the undemocratic, the un-American, and the unpatriotic practices of the John Birch Society. The answer lies in our recognition that communism is an effect and not a cause. The answer lies in our honesty in facing the fact that there never would have been any such thing as communism had it not been for our failures. That communism is capitalizing on our failures, and communism will continue to prosper until we have the humility to admit our failures and the courage to take proper remedial measures. This means that you and I are going to have to do some soul searching. We're going to have to ask ourselves, each one in the innermost recesses of our own souls, am I living up to the American creed? Am I willing, above everything else, to see in my fellow men the images of the God whom I claim to adore? And if our faith in God is what we say it is, then how in His name can we be parties to patterns of political, economic, social, educational, and cultural practices which tend to undermine rather than to underpin the God-given rights of our fellow men? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is really a serious hour. It's awfully late. It's later, I think, than any one of us can understand. And certainly it's far too late for us to be playing fast and loose with eternal truth. It's far too late for us to say one thing and to do another. It's far too late for us not to recognize that the future of our society, the future of our civilization, depends upon whether we do have the humility under God to acknowledge our mistakes, to acknowledge where we have failed in the past, and the courage to do something about these favors. I need not tell you how deeply worried I am about what's happening in the South. To the South, to which I owe allegiance because I'm a born and raised Southerner. And if it means anything at all, I can add that I had my great-grandfather and my 5 great-uncles killed fighting under the Confederate flag. And by way of a footnote, I love that flag as a symbol of a cause that was bravely fought for and nobly lost. And that's why I grieve when I see the stars and bars used as a cheap political racial symbol. I worry about this South that I love because we've been living a double life, haven't we? We've been professing belief in the dignity of man, and we have been vindicating that dignity as we thought for the white man, and we have been undermining it for the Negro. It won't work, ladies and gentlemen. It won't work. Please try to follow me. I'm not trying to quarrel with anybody. I know what prejudice is. I was raised for the greater part of my young life in a rigidly segregated community. I know what it is to grow up and accept the harshness of segregation as I did the air I breathed. And so don't think that I don't understand prejudice. I don't justify it. But I think I understand it because I was, at least at one time, a victim of it myself. So I'm not quarreling with anybody. I'm trying to reach your minds. I'm trying to get through to your hearts. And in the name of God, plead with you that we measure up to the finest things in our Southern heritage. And certainly I'm not proud, and I hope you're not proud, of anything in our Southern prejudice, in our Southern heritage, that would beat our fellow men down. That's not the Southern way of life that I'm proud of, because I will recognize nothing to be proud of in the Southern way of life that stands between me and my God, that stands between me and a sincere, honest profession of Americanism. And to look down on my fellow man, to strive to enter into conspiracy, to deprive him of the politically, economic, and the social privileges which are his as well as mine, to enter into such conspiracy certainly is to stand between those who are conspirators, to stand between them and their God. I worry about this. I'm deeply worried about Mississippi. I'm deeply worried about Louisiana. I'm deeply worried about my own state of Florida that elected a racist yesterday as its governor. Why, in the name of God, why? Why do we have to elect men to office and demand that they stand on a platform of suppression, of oppression, of persecution of our fellow men. I refuse to accept that any longer, fellow Southerners, because it's undermining the image of Mississippi. It's undermining and beclouding the image of the South. And it's undermining the great cause of human freedom and human decency. And only if we are willing to make the sacrifices necessary to build a society in which human dignity and human decency will be acknowledged and respected and protected, only if we build that society can we be assured of the triumph of the forces of freedom. And you and I are deeply committed to the cause of freedom. But we cannot vindicate freedom for ourselves and be unwilling for all men, particularly our fellow citizens, to share it. And so, you particularly, who belong to the labor movement, you know, if you know anything at all about labor history, you know the struggles and the pains and the frustrations, even the blood that form part of the price that labor had to pay for freedom. So, if there is any group that should be sympathetic to the cause of human freedom, it should be members of the organized labor movement. Now, I love this movement. I've been intimately associated with it for over 20 years. I've tried to do my bit in order that the cause of honest, upright labor unionism should triumph. And the reason that I do love the labor movement, because I recognize in it one of the greatest forces for human freedom, certainly in our American society. And therefore, you labor men, particularly you of an older generation, you know the price you have to pay. But I think in the main now that you have bought with blood and sweat and tears a measure of freedom, not only for yourselves, but for working men in general. You've bought a measure of freedom of which you can be justly proud. And in purchasing that freedom for the working man, you have contributed as importantly as any other group in the United States to the glory of our nation. Now we're fighting another battle of freedom. A battle every bit as important, every bit as urgent, and every bit as critical as the labor man had to fight in bygone decades. Are you going to be in this battle also? The labor movement, in my opinion, has one basic reason for its existence, and it is this. The labor movement is an organization to help those who are unable through their own resources to help themselves. And therefore, in my opinion, labor unionism will prosper only to the extent that it never loses its preoccupation with the little people. Once it does that, then perhaps its reasons for existence will vanish, and some other organization will have to take its place. These precious little people. And what do I mean by little people? And I use that term in all reverence. By little people, I mean those who lack the strength to speak out for themselves, who lack the strength to achieve freedom for themselves. And so what do? They band together, and through their collective strength in unionism, they're able to stand up on an equal basis with their peers in management. The little people are going to rule the world. And there is among the little people throughout the world today the revolution of rising expectations. That's what kept your forebears in the labor movement alive. This hope that there were better things to come. The courage to make the sacrifices necessary to pay the price in the struggle that better things would come. Now, as we say, the labor movement has reached a maturity. And into the labor movement have come many who did not go through the struggles of your fathers and grandfathers. And sometimes I fear that these newcomers of the last 10 or 15 years, these newcomers into the labor movement, forget that unionism is something more than a service agency. To bargain for your wages, hours, and working conditions, that's important. But that doesn't, in my opinion, justify the existence of the labor movement. The labor movement will thrive only to the extent that the labor movement keeps before its eyes the idea of a cause, the idea of a crusade for what? A crusade for human decency and human freedom throughout society. A crusade that the little people, because they're weak, because they are so often voiceless, will not thereby suffer injustice or oppression. What is your answer to the cry of the little people? Throughout the world, as we said, and specifically within the borders of our own nation, can you honestly fail to ally yourself with the great struggle for human freedom and human decency which is taking place today in the state of Mississippi, throughout the South, and throughout the United States. Look into your hearts, dear ladies and gentlemen, and under God, ask yourselves how you stand in this great struggle. For remember that basic to our problem in race relations is not Negro-white relations, enormously important as they are. Basic to this great struggle is the human person. And be well warned. You play fast and loose with the human person in whomsoever found, black or white, and you're playing fast and loose with the human person found in yourselves. This is a thought that Mrs. Smith gave expression to in a rather dramatic way when she said, "You cannot keep people down in the mud without getting down in the mud yourselves." This is what we've got to realize. Men and women of the Mississippi AFL-CIO, what is your answer? Oh, I know the struggle is difficult. I know how hard it is to stand up against the pressure groups to which Mrs. Smith referred. I know how difficult it is not to conform when everybody around you is conforming. But can we not expect an added measure of courage from a movement whose great traditions are marked with the records of courageous men and women? It seems to me now is the time to stand up and be counted. Stand up and be willing to practice what we preach. That we do believe and that we do have the courage to live by our great American creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Here in Mississippi, here in the South, here throughout the United States, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator, the common Father of us all, which makes us brothers one to another. Endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these is life, the full human life, liberty, the liberty of a democracy under God, in the pursuit of happiness, the right to live our lives under God. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to secure which governments are instituted among men. And I stand before you, and I tell you as a citizen of Louisiana, that I am happy to be a citizen of Louisiana. But I am not willing here to tell you that I'd be willing to bleed and suffer and die for the state of Louisiana. I am not. because Louisiana is only one of the 50 constituent parts of my country. And it's for my country that I would be willing to bleed and suffer and die. And my first allegiance is not to the state of Louisiana, and it will never be. My allegiance, first, last, and always, is to the United States of America. And therefore, when in the Declaration of Independence we declare that our government has been instituted to secure the inalienable rights not of the citizens of Louisiana or of Mississippi, not of white citizens or of Negro citizens or of Irish citizens or of German citizens, but of American citizens without regard to race, creed, or national origin. That's why I'm proud of my government, because that is the great high ideals to which my government, to which your government, to which the government of the United States is committed. And finally, I'm proud of my government because it has derived its just powers from the consent of the governed. But in the name of God, how can we say that unless we are willing to give all the government equal access to a voice in government, and therefore equal access to the franchise? Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much more that I'd like to talk to you about. I hope that what I have said you will believe. Namely, I didn't come here to quarrel with anybody. I know the difficulties as well as anyone here. I know the sensitiveness of the topics that I have treated. But what I do come here to do is to plead with you. Consult your consciences. Stand before God all alone, and then tell him that your thoughts and your actions in this regard are such that you're not ashamed to stand before God. In closing, this is what I want to say to you. God bless you, God keep you, God be with you always. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Father Tommy. Organization, appreciate the remarks that you made in dealing with a most difficult subject. We'd like to extend to you an invitation to remain with us the rest of the afternoon if you can. If you can't, then certainly feel free to leave at any time. Now, we have considerable convention business yet to take care of this afternoon. Yesterday, we had to revise a spot on the program dealing with the union label program. I'm wondering if the Lady Garment Workers Group is ready to take... Are you? Would you please come up, Bernice? Coming to the podium, I'd like to make an inquiry. Do we have any resolutions or committee reports that need to be passed out to the delegates? If we do have, we'll the Sergeant at Arms please proceed to pass those out in order that we might conserve as much time as possible. You got, what's this up here? What is that there? Right there. Over there.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith?
Resolution 8 and 6 are on the tables. Now, 8 is distributed on the table, but if you look to your far right on each table, you will find a stack of number 6. Would you please pass them to your left? We figured this would save time by doing it.
Will that be all of them, Smitty?
Yes, that's all I have, Claude. Now, these 6, I have a few left in my hand, so if any of the delegates don't have a copy of 6, I have a few left.
Representative of the ILG-WU, Ms. Bernice Hunton, who will proceed now to discuss that organization's union labor program, and I understand she's going to give away a prize or two. Bernice.
Thank you very much. Officers, delegates, and guests, I'm pinch hitting for our girl from the Labor Department who was with us yesterday from the Atlanta office, but she had to return to Atlanta this morning, so she couldn't do this. And when you went out Monday for lunch, you were presented with a card and a pen. The pen you kept, the card you signed, and this card enabled to, you are to get, I'm going to give away 3 dresses. So I'm hoping that everyone will be lucky. But I want to tell you a little something about in your folder that was given to you at the beginning of the convention, you found 2 little leaflets concerning the union label. One for the men, it's news to your wife, and one for the women, the 60-second test. On these little folders, it tells you where to look for your union label. If every union member and their family would look for and ask and not buy anything that didn't have the union label in it, and everybody buys a lot of wearing apparel, you could go a long way in strengthening our needles' trades. We have a program that we've been just started, we started last few years ago, and we're just getting started here with it in the southeastern region. And several years ago at our staff meeting in Atlanta, we picked several of the better department stores, Rich and Davidson, several of them in Atlanta. And our delegates and staff members went to the stores looking for merchandise with the union label. And as we went in and asked for this merchandise, the clerks, so many of them, didn't even know what we were talking about. The union label, they'd never heard of it. What is a union label? Where do we find it? And we would show them what we were looking for, and they were surprised. They didn't even know it was in their clothes. Those people were selling this merchandise all the time, and they didn't know what they were selling. So the next convention, we returned to these same places. And the personnel who had been there on our first visit that recognized us were very happy to tell us, we have a lot of things with the union label now. And they would go and show us. They knew where the union label was, and they were very proud of the fact that they did have union labels. And if just the union members would ask for union and refuse to buy it if it doesn't have a union label, that would go just a few years that we've been working, we've made tremendous strides. And to go a little farther, if you'd ask your neighbor to do the same thing, you'd be surprised what effect you would have. Now I'm going to ask Brother Randy if he will draw, shake him up forward, or shake him up good proper, let him draw. And if a man wins, he's got to come kiss me.
Man wins, what happens?
Got to come kiss me. Wouldn't that be awful? Claude, will you draw?
E.J. Brown, Hanners Local, 433. Come forward and kiss a lady. E.J. Brown, is he here? Is he here? He's not here, he had to leave?
Well, I'm sorry, you have to be present to win.
Jewel Whitlock. She's here. How many you want me to roll?
3.
Three.
I have 3 winners.
She's here. You'll have to kiss me. Elizabeth Martina. D.W. Phillips. Looks like Phillips. D.W. Phillips. See here? You're not going to get kissed in spite of all I can do. Yeah. Bernice.
I knew I'd get cheated, Claude.
El Galat. Now you're going to get kissed. Come on out and do your duty. Is that all that?
That's all. These cards will be sent to Atlanta, and your dresses will be mailed. Let's see. 2 of them have sizes. Mr. Glock, he's questioning the size of his wife. He doesn't know.
She's here. You can fill her up.
But these will be mailed into the Atlanta office, and your dresses will be sent to you. These dresses are made at the Dixie Dress Manufacturing Company in Atlanta, where the people there have had a good contract for a number of years. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman,
Brother McMahon.
is this thing in operation here?
Is it?
Bernice was supposed to be kissed by the gentleman that wanted a dress. I don't think we saw that.
Tell her to come back.
Go back. The gentleman come back.
I just saw my wife walk in. I expect you better not.
I think Russ is putting me on the spot.
I'd like to ask all of the committee chairmen that who have not completed their reports, will you please come up to the podium? All committee chairmen that have not completed their reports. This morning we received a partial report from the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. I understand that we have one more resolution dealing with a constitutional change. So at this time I'm going to call on the chairman of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, Brother C.E. Schaefer, to continue with his report.
Brother Ramsey,
Brother Jackson.
there's still not a copy of Resolution 8 on this side at all.
Resolution 8? You don't have Resolution 8 over here? Will the Sergeant at Arms please get Resolution 8 and put out over on this side of the house?
You want to proceed with another one?
How many you got? You have another one?
I feel like I should make it this time. I know some of you are thinking about the fact you might be a little after checkout time getting out of this hotel. Well, I've already made arrangements with the hotel. If you are after checkout time, you will not be charged with another day. Now, if they try any tricks on you, why, you let me know about it. Thank you.
Not hold up your hand, please.
Resolution number 8 deals with a change on page 17 of your Constitution, if you wish to check it. Section 11, I'll proceed to read. Whereas the expense payment by the Mississippi AFL-CIO to executive committeemen, executive board members, and employees has remained the same since the merger in 1957, and whereas the cost of meals, lodging, transportation, and wages has increased over the years, and whereas many people who perform work for the Mississippi AFL-CIO
are now forced to subsidize the Mississippi AFL-CIO in the form of expense and wages. Now therefore be it resolved that Article 10, Section 11 be amended to read: the expenses of executive committeemen, executive board members, and employees when attending official meetings or transacting business for the council shall be paid upon presentation of an itemized expense account in the following manner and method: up to but not exceeding $8 per day for meals and incidentals. Actual hotel bills shall be paid. 10 cents per mile shall be paid for transportation, and actual salary shall be paid for lost wages, provided the member actually loses wages or salary in the performance of his duties. Be it finally resolved that if this is adopted by the convention, it shall become effective June 1st, 1964. Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption.
You've heard the committee's report and the motion to adopt resolution number 8. We have any discussion on the motion? Second's not necessary, committee report, but if somebody wants a second, it's all right. Any discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, this concludes the committee's report, and I move that it be dismissed.
You've heard the motion by Brother Schaefer. This completes the report of the Constitution Bylaws Committee, and he'd like for his committee to be discharged with the thanks of the convention. We have any discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Bruton, would you come forward and give us the report of the Social Security, or the Social Insurance Committee, rather? The Claude Bruton, Chairman of the Social Insurance Committee.
Mr. Chairman and fellow delegates, the Social Insurance Committee had one proposition to consider, and that was resolution number 4. If you will turn to resolution 4. I'm sure that all of you have had occasion to read it and to give it some thought and consideration. If you have had a chance to study it and to give this resolution some thought, I'm sure that the question arose in your mind concerning the merit for the proposals that are made in the resolution in raising the various amount of taxable income and so forth, and as to what that might do to our paychecks under the withholding system from year to year as the Social Security rate will increase. The committee was confronted with that question, and we did some inquiring into it and found that these facts and figures are those which come from our Department of Social Insurance of the AFL-CIO in Washington, and that the proposals embodied in this resolution have already been enacted and passed upon by the National Convention, which met in New York some several months ago. So that might set your minds at ease if that particular problem did present itself to your thinking. Whereas there are a number of improvements in the Social Security that are necessary to the economic security of the families of American workers, the one most serious threat to their security that remains is the unpredictable high-cost illness of the elderly. For 6 years, the AFL-CIO has been urging Congress to bridge this gap in the defenses against humiliating dependency. For 6 years, the Congress has failed to come to grips with the problem. Every substitute, reliance on private insurance schemes, and the shabby substitute of public charity offered by the Kerr-Mills Act has been tried. The problem is still with us. There is no conceivable reason for further delay. And whereas, aside from a small sound actuarial basis, Chairman, the committee has considered this resolution. We concur in its intent and purpose, and we move you the adoption of the resolution.
You've heard the committee's report, the motion to adopt resolution number 4. We have any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Bruton.
Mr. Chairman, that considers the work of our committee. I want to thank the committee members for their attendance at our meeting and for their discussion and the consideration of this matter. I think the commission should extend to them a vote of thanks and discharge them at this time.
Brother Bruton, you've heard Brother Bruton's motion, his wishes to discharge the committee with the thanks of the convention. We're having discussion on that motion. Not all in favor of that motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried and so ordered. Brother Robbins, are you ready? Brother Robbins, Chairman of the Resolutions Committee.
Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, this is resolution number 6, if you have it before you, submitted by the Resolutions Committee. The suggestion was given to the committee by U.S. Labor Department. Does everybody have a copy of the resolution? It is as follows. Whereas injury and death for occupational accidents and tragedies to those affected and roadblocks in the path of our country's economic progress, and where it has been demonstrated time and again that such accidents are not preventable, that many can be prevented, and whereas leaders from labor, industry, commerce, education, government, and all other segments of our society will gather in Washington, D.C. on June 23-4-5, 1964, to participate in the President's Conference on Occupational Safety and to seek means to mobilize leadership for new safety breakthroughs. Now therefore be it resolved that all members of the Mississippi AFL-CIO join in designating the week of June 21 to June 27, 1964 as Job Safety Week in Mississippi. And come. Mr. Chairman, the committee concurs in this resolution and moves for its adoption.
You've heard the committee's report and the motion to adopt resolution number 6. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Barnes, I believe, will give the report for the Committee on Political Education. I understand that Brother Nikes was called out of town.
That completes our report. Yes.
Brother Robbins says this completes his committee's report and moves that that committee be discharged with the thanks of the convention. We're having a discussion on that motion. Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Barnes.
Mr. Chairman, when I finish what I have to say, our committee will wish to be discharged. I'm just like you, the suspense is killing me too. So I'm gonna get out of here just as quick as I can. I'm under the suspenders of thinking of what happened to Brother Nikes. As he ran out the door, he said he had an emergency he had to go home tend to. And as soon as he got back, he let me know about it. He asked me to remind those people from the 5th Congressional District to think of that last person you could contact and get them out to vote on next Tuesday for Eddie Kaya. Your committee discussed coke. And we found in the auditor's report that in that year covered, there were 13 unions who contributed to coal. Most of us had to be disappointed with ourselves because our unions were not represented. So that led us to ask these questions. How is it possible to double or triple the number of unions that will be reported in that next auditor's report? And whose responsibility is it that that increase shall take place? Is it Claude Ramsey's, or Thomas Knight's, or the board, or is it your responsibility and my responsibility?
Thank you, Brother Barnes. We have, yes, the Credentials Committee would like to give its final report, I believe. Brother Jones.
Mr. Chairman, as y'all know, Brother Clark was the officer and who was chairman of the Registration and Credentials Committee, and I had to proceed, which I have to the best of my ability. For you people that I give a new name, I hope your family will forgive me for it when you get home and don't criticize me too bad. We have seated all the delegates who was registered. They have voted, and I stayed with the election committee till it was tabulated. And I like to, at this time, to say thank you to the committeemen that worked with Brother Clark and myself. And I ask the Registration and Credential Committee be discharged of their duties.
You've heard Brother Jones's report and motion to discharge the Credentials and Restoration Committee. Do you have any discussion on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Do we have any other committees to report other than the Election Committee? I guess it's time then. While the chairman of that committee is coming up, is the chairman of that committee that's handled resolution number 2 ready to report? Thompson, I understand, is making a report for that committee. I believe the chairman had to leave or something, right? Yes, Brother Thompson.
Resolution number 2, which was in your kit, was discussed by the committee and was pointed out that it has already been adopted by the state body in your 18-point program of progress. So the committee considered that this would be a duplication in view of that and just recommended non-concurrence in this resolution. So moved.
You've heard the committee's report to recommend not to concur in resolution number 2, and the chairman so moved. Do you have any discussion on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Just a minute, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, over here, Brother Beckham, I'm sorry.
T.G. Beckham, local IBEW Local 1493. Mr. Chairman and delegates, I rise to concur in the committee's report. Although I am much opposed to pay a tax to exercise my rights as a God-given American, but by the same token, I am also opposed of paying a tax to come in here and exercise my rights as a free union member. And I think that we should support the committee's report until we clean our own house. We have to pay a tax to come in and sit down and talk in the form of a restoration fee, which years ago went to entertain you while you were in the convention city.
up until now, it goes to something else. And I think we should clean our house before we ask somebody else to clean theirs. I concur in the committee's report.
Do we have any further discussion on the motion not to concur, Resolution 2? All in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. All opposed, motion carried and so ordered. And says his committee would now like to be discharged with the thanks of the convention and so move. We have any discussion on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. All opposed, motion carried and so ordered. Do we have any other committees to report now other than the Elections Committee? I would like to say this, and it might be a good idea to bring this up now because I don't want people to start leaving the hall after this is done. There will be a little business to take care of, and as a matter of fact, we could do it right now before this report. The main business that the convention needs to decide at this point is the next convention site, where you want it, and so forth. As a rule, this matter has been referred to the executive board for consideration, and if you want to do it that way again, it would take a motion to that effect. Otherwise, it would have to be decided by the convention. You move that this matter of convention site be referred to the executive board? Do we have a second to that motion? We have a second to that motion? Second. Have any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. We will now call on the chairman of the Elections Committee, Brother Moore. Brother Moore.
I'd like to thank the Election Committee before I make this report. They've done a wonderful job. They worked very hard and was very sincere with their work. And I would like to thank all of them for the good job they did. I will make this report in this manner. The amount of ballots casted, the amount of votes casted, and the amount of votes casted to each person who was running, and the people that were elected to office. The amount of ballots casted was 137. The amount of votes casted was 15,944. To Claude Ramsey, 12,870. To R.N. Thomas, 3,004. For Vice President, for James E. Clark, 10,745. Is that too fast? Clark, 10,745. Y'all got that now? James E. Jackson. 10,745. James E. Jackson, 10,154. C. E. Schaefer, 15,006. Marvin E. Taylor, 15,275. 275. For the Executive Board, Bert Bowers, 13,609. W.D. Bilbo, 15,519. Arthur Condia, 10,605. Mrs. Merle Davis, 13,385. John Gillespie, 15,139. Wayman Goodman, 14,685. Lauren Galat, 14,482. 14,482. Ms. Margaret Hicks, 4,396. Ms. Doris Kelly, 15,148. Russell McMahon, 12,211. T.L. Nikkei, 14,903. H.H. Robbins, 11,962. The election committee has ruled the following officers elected to the council: Claude Ramsey, M.E. Taylor, C.E. Schaefer, J.E. Clark, W.D. Bilbo, Ms. Doris Kelly, John Gillespie, T.L. McKeith, Wayman Goodman, Lauren Galat, Bert Bowers, Ms. Merle Davis, Russell McMahon, and H.H. Robbins. That concludes the business of the election committee, and I move that they be dismissed from their duties.
Thank you, Brother Moore. I know your committee had probably one of the worst assignments in the convention, and certainly you should be discharged with the thanks of the convention. You've heard the chairman's motion to discharge the election committee with the thanks of the convention. Do we have any discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now I'd like to ask Brother Bob Starnes, is he in the house? Brother Bob Starnes in the house? Would you please come forward and give the newly elected officers the obligation? Bob is getting ready. In finding the proper place in the Constitution for the obligation, I want to ask all of the newly elected officers to please come to the podium. All of the newly elected officers.
Brother Ramsey.
Brother Bruton?
McClure, CLU delegate from Jackson in the hall.
What'd you say?
It's McClure in the hall.
What? Delegate McClure. Is there a Delegate McClure in the hall? Delegate McClure. Report to Brother Bruton over there, will you please? Where you wanted that, Bob, up here?
To the officers and board members of this council, will you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? Use your name where I use my name. I, Robert Starnes, do hereby promise to faithfully perform the duties of the office to which I have been elected to the best of my ability and to the benefit and honor of the Mississippi AFL-CIO. In the event of resignation or removal from office, or at the expiration of my term, I promise to deliver to my successor all property in my possession belonging to this council. I further promise to protect and defend the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations during my term of office. You lower your hands, and may I say to you, each and every one, congratulations and possibly condolences. You have been told well this afternoon that we are living in troublesome, trying, and confused times. And I think that undoubtedly is true. You are in times when you are going to be opposed on occasions by law enforcement officers, by the politicians, by the news media, and by sometimes even some of our own members. And I don't think I can say much to you in the way of encouragement except you do your duty as you see it. You do your duty so that when you go home and put your head on the pillow at night, you can go to sleep. And when it is necessary, and I am sure it will be necessary most frequently, you say a little prayer to the good Lord above to help and guide you and the organization you are privileged to serve.
All that the delegates at this convention feel that they've heard enough from Claude Ramsey for the last 3 days, and I won't propose at this time to make you another speech. But I do want you to know that I deeply appreciate the confidence that you've placed in me again. And I also want you to know that I hold no animosity in my heart against anyone because of some of the problems that we may have had in this convention. My sincere hope and desire is that the affiliated groups of this organization can see fit those that might have been in disagreement with some things that were acted on here, that those groups, as well as the other groups, will leave here united in a common effort and stay right down the line on the principles of the trade union movement. I can make you only one promise. I'll continue doing the job the best I know how. Thank you so much. Brother Knight would like to have a word to say.
Mr. President, fellow officers, members of the board, delegates and guests, with all of the sincerity in my heart, I want to thank you for the confidence that you've shown in me again yesterday. And I say to you that I will continue to serve you to the best of my ability. I will always be found on the line for the membership of the AFL-CIO in the state of Mississippi. And I challenge you, my friends, to let's go forward from here, go back to our local unions, our central labor councils, with a determination that we shall go forward, that we shall espouse those principles of the trade union movement in this country to no end. I thank you very much.
Brother Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say that I appreciate the confidence that you have shown in my re-election. And I would like to say to the honorable opponent of nominee for vice president that certainly that I don't feel that my election discredited his ability to perform in the State Labor Council's activities or any other group of organized labor in the least. I think that we have seen democracy at its best in this convention. Certainly, the majority apparently has ruled. Any time that we reach the point that we cannot accept a democratic process such as this has been and still be a part of it with just as determined effort as had we been the winner, then I think we have dropped to a very low ebb. So in substantiating what Brother Knight said, I think we can all go home after this convention, maybe just a little better aware of some of the real problems that we're confronted with and seek the solution to it. 2 years from now, we can probably come back for the greatest convention that Mississippi AFL-CIO has ever had. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Brother Taylor would like to say a word.
Mr. Chairman, I thought that was a real good speech Jack has just made, so it won't make you mad if I just say that I concur in that speech and say, thank you.
Brother Clark.
Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, I would like to express my appreciation, but last night I was able to go to bed knowing that everyone that had been nominated was a very good man or lady. And I will pledge to you my very best for the next 2 years, and if I can help in any way at any time, please call on me.
Thank you, Brother Clark. Does any member of the newly board, would they like to have a word to say? The same goes for them, right? Same goes for them. Feel the same way. Do we have any other matters that needs to be brought before the convention at this time under welfare of the Mississippi AFL-CIO? Brother Knight said he had an announcement he wanted to make. We won't let you go before he makes it. Do we have any other matters that needs to be brought before this convention before we adjourn? Not, we'll let Brother Knight make his announcement. Brother Knight.
I want to say thank you to Brother Claude Bruton for bringing the Central Labor Union's projector and equipment down here and showing the films for us during the convention. Also, I'd like the following people to meet me over here in this corner after adjournment, please. E.L. Barnes, Jennings Davis, J.D. Holcomb, Merle Davis, Juanita Knuckles, Rachel Walters, H.H. Robbins, Eula Galat, T.L. Nikes, Elizabeth Matina, L. Galat, Bill Pilot, Doris Kelly, Evelyn Voss, Eula Burdette, and Vance Hatton.
Any other announcements? I deem that the business of this convention has been completed and that we will now adjourn sine die. The convention is now adjourned. May I wish you Godspeed on your way to your respective homes.